As those of you familiar with my work are aware, my first interest is in proving the peacefulness of other species and learning about their culture. As the founder of the Trust Our World Society, I've encountered dozens of species who are actually quite friendly and intelligent, and who are only aggressive due to human interference in their daily affairs. Most are quiet, loving folk who want nothing more than their foraging grounds left undisturbed. If a stranger appeared in your home brandishing a weapon, I'm sure you'd attack too, right? Though many have expressed skepticism of my work, my latest venture into the wild and dangerous Splendide fields have unearthed some groundbreaking new evidence that is sure to turn any critic of my so-called loony peace-seeking adventures on their head. My discovery: Pinguiculas aren't a natural species at all, and their true origins are more of a heartbreak than a miracle. I have always been suspicious of the truth behind the cute and dangerous Pinguicula. They simply don't make much sense. How did they come to be in such a high-leveled region? Why have they been allowed such a massive stretch of land by the stronger inhabitants of the area? Adventurers have been bringing back trophies from Pinguiculas for some time now, so I decided, despite my normal preference for avoiding such gruesome vendors, to investigate. As I suspected, I found that many of these Pinguicula drops were clearly manufactured from natural growing plants. They weren't grown from the bodies of the Pinguiculas at all, but worn, much as you or I may wear clothes fashioned from wool or cotton. The leaves touted as valuable loot are actually from plants common to the Splendide region, arranged together to make an elaborate disguise to keep outsiders from recognizing their true nature. This was my theory, anyway, but I had to prove it. So I did the unthinkable yet again. I trekked into hostile territory to try and find a Pinguicula willing to trust me, to talk to me. Me, a member of the villainous race of humans who continue to try and infiltrate their peaceful community. I knew it would take some time. It always does. However, after some initial difficulty, I was able to enter into peaceful talks with one of them, and what I discovered was the greatest shock I have received in years. Pinguicula are actually leaves in disguise. Yes, you read that correctly, leaves. The living beings crafted by alchemy are living in the wild and being hunted, and it's all because their creators were neglectful, unloving, and unkind. I will now retell the story of Lifa, an orphan leaf, who left an unhappy home with her alchemist creator, and is now living every day in terror, trying to survive the endless human threats to her peaceful community, with her and her fellow abandoned sisters. I will remind you that Lifa is not a human like you and me, and so has a slightly different world view than the rest of us. She is one of the first homunculi I have interviewed as well, so it is important to remember that her experiences of life are even more different than my usual writings. My name is Lifa, and Lifa is not a monster. I'm a leaf, and we are very peaceful and good, she began. I asked her how old she was and where she came from. I was made a long time ago. I don't remember what day. My maker was a great alchemist. He said he made me to be his loyal companion, and that I was named Lifa after his favorite person in a story. I was very happy to have such an important name. A name means you are valuable. Most of my sisters don't have a name. They came here because their maker said they weren't good enough to keep, or because their maker couldn't afford to feed them. They were very weak, and they came a very long way. It was hard for them. I think many more must not have made it, but I did, and I'm happy here. I want to stay here forever. People come and try to unmake us, but we don't want to be unmade. We want to stay here and be happy. So please, tell everyone that Lifa is happy here and doesn't want to fight them. Lifa was one of the oldest leaves hiding in the Pinguicula clan. Most of the others had a much harder time communicating with me. They were terrified of humans and didn't want to talk about their lives before joining the Pinguiculas. Leafa was not so shy. She was well-spoken and calm, and, as I later learned, very advanced in her abilities as a leaf. Though her alchemist, called by her maker, seemed to care for her very much, the care he extended towards her was very much more utilitarian than fatherly. My maker told me that I had to be strong because I wasn't a good homunculus unless I was. He was always saying that the other homunculus would be better than me, but that I was pretty and could be useful if I tried. He taught me many things so I could be helpful. I learned how to use potions to heal him when he got hurt, and how to cast a spell to help us run away from danger. He was very happy about my spell, but he didn't like it as much when I healed him. Whenever I thought he might be unmade, I healed him as fast as I could, but later he would always yell at me for being a stupid girl who wasted his potions. Maker was very strong, and I thought for a long time I was very stupid for being so worried about him, so I healed him less. But whenever I did that, he would sometimes get too hurt to keep fighting, and we'd have to use the magic of a butterfly wing to return to safety. Whenever that happened, Maker yelled at me for being a stupid girl who wasn't useful. He was never happy. He said I was stupid for helping too much or stupid for not helping enough. I believed him for a long time, but one day I realized that I wasn't the stupid one. It was Maker who didn't know best. I did. Despite this, Leafa stayed with her alchemist. I owed him because he made me. I had to stay with him because I didn't know what else I could do. I thought leaving him might unmake me, too. He was very powerful. Maybe I would only be made as long as I was around him. But this wasn't the end of Leafa's struggles. She also dealt with the constant aching hunger that homunculi have long been subjected to, in a cruel attempt to maximize their loyalty and dependency to their creators. Maker would never feed me unless I got really hungry. I asked him why he wouldn't feed me one more time. He said he had to make sure I appreciated it every time I got fed, because food for me was expensive and he only wanted me to eat enough to like him. I never liked him more for that, though. I only became afraid he wouldn't feed me. Every day I was afraid he would forget, but he always fed me in the end, right when I was at my weakest. It was hard to live like that. He was always taking me to dangerous places so he could level, or forcing me to hurt other things so I could level. It's hard to fight when you're hungry. Maker was never hungry when he fought. I always was. Despite the endless scolding over supply use and the constant ache of hunger, Leafa still held on. Like anyone in an unhealthy relationship, she thought there was no other way. For us, it's hard to leave Maker. We only know what Maker teaches us. Most of us didn't want to leave our Maker at all, but they made us go away because we weren't good enough for them. A few of us, like me, figured out we could leave as we got smarter. It all started because I wondered who made Maker. When I asked, he said he was born from parents. When I asked where parents was, Maker said in Lighthausen. Lighthausen is very far away from Maker's home in Pantera, so I thought maybe Leafa could be far away from Maker, just like Maker was far away from parents. Then, one day, Leafa got away from Maker, and Leafa was just fine. Leafa has been better and better every day since. The interview had Lifa relating endless sad tales to me. She remembered being left to tend her alchemist's shop while he napped in the cart, a terrible case of poisoning, a condition common to you and me, fair reader, but for which alchemists have never properly researched in their own homunculi and formulated a cure for. In countless times, when the poor little girl was never even healed, but instead dragged away, unconscious from some terrible encounter, only to be revived later, when the alchemist took the time to get supplies to feed and heal her. The breaking point, however, was none of these things. It was a far worse event. One day, Maker told Lifa that she was going to get very strong soon. I was really happy. Lifa always wanted to be strong for Maker, so Maker took out a glowing red stone. It seemed filled with dark energy. I didn't want to touch it, but Maker said I had to if I wanted to eat again. When I touched the stone, my whole body was in terrible pain, and I grew up right there on the spot all at once. I've seen people of all kinds of sizes. They grow up slowly. Lifa had to grow up all at once. Maker said Lifa would never grow up because Lifa was just a pet. Lifa had to evolve. It was very painful. Lifa doesn't think anyone should evolve. It isn't a nice thing to have to do. After that, her alchemist hounded her every day to use her magic as physical strength and to fight harder, imploring her to learn the coveted leaf skill, mental change. It didn't come quickly to Lifa, however. Maker kept telling Lifa, "Use your brain, you silly girl! Fight harder!" But I didn't understand. Finally, Lifa decided to use her brain and run away. After a while, hiding in the peaceful areas outside of town, Lifa encountered other leaves like herself, orphaned, and they decided to travel to the new world, where rumor had it the dangerous forest creatures were keeping most adventurers away. We went for a long time looking for a new home. When we found this place, we decided it would be perfect. We made clothes out of leaves and called ourselves pinguiculas, after our two oldest sisters who came up with the idea, Pinguine and Zula. We thought it was very clever sounding, like a real monster would be called. But we aren't monsters, we're just us. We lived here in peace for a while, but now more adventurers keep coming, and every day we hope that none of our makers will come to take us away. The Cornas protect us, and so do the Naga and the Vespa. They are all very kind creatures. They promised to protect us for as long as they could, but they have been getting hurt, and we cannot heal them forever. So we are getting strong, and we will protect them too someday. And if we ever see our makers again, we'll be the ones to unmake them, not the other way around. Smashing day to be reading. Oh, by Lord Nelson's trousers, I screwed up again.